Greetings, and thank you for joining us for the sixth episode of DC Animation with Spenser and Friends. This is an LMG Podcast Production. Today, I am joined by a dear friend.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mikah. That's what I go by in the streets anyway.
I don't know if you have any socials that you want to let the people know about or anything.
Instagram at Raheem Shoots, right? You'll see a lot of cool video stuff that I do on there. And for right now, that's all I got.
That's fine. Cool, excellent. So real quick, tell me about your DC consumption. Comic books, movies, video games, TV shows. What DC comic things do you consume?
So what I will say is it is less than the average DC fan, but more than the average consumer, right? So I know enough to know more than the regular person, but not enough to hold my own in an argument with a true fan, right? So I can give you maybe one extra detail about, the Justice League, or Batman, right? I can tell you his origin story, or Flash, or I can tell you about the, what is it? I'm going to mess this up. What is it? The speed verse?
Speed Force.
Speed Force. There you go. See, right there. That should tell you everything. I should tell you everything right there.
You're like, there is a Speed Force.
Yes.
But
right.
Okay.
I know a few cool things that they could do that maybe everybody wouldn't know, but not much. I lean more towards the Marvel side. But I think everybody messes with, Batman. Right. So, but can't nobody say anything to Batman. And so, I played all the Arkham games and stuff like that. So.
Okay. All right. Cool. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you for joining us on this journey through DC animation. Today's film is Superman Batman Public Enemies. This film was released September 29th, 2009. And the comic book on which this movie was based is Superman Batman Public Enemies, so of the same name. I will read a synopsis and then we will, just start talking about it. So we open to numerous shots of what looks like an economic crash and martial law. Lex Luthor is running for president, and he actually wins. He is making it clear that superhumans are not above the law, so they can either get with him and be overseen by the government, or they can get dealt with by the government. So a car chase is happening, and the police are not able to catch the car, so Superman arrives, and he catches the car, and he then has a conversation with Major Force, Captain Atom, and Power Girl. They are trying to convince him that Lex Luthor is actually doing a good job, but of course, he's not buying it. Lex Luthor finds that there is a kryptonite meteor heading for Earth, and it is set to arrive in 7 days, and he suggests hitting it with missiles. Amanda Waller suggests using the superheroes to handle it, but he doesn't want them getting any of the credit. So Lex Luthor has a press conference and says that he will handle the meteor, and he wants to make peace with Superman. Batman confirms the validity of the meteor, and Superman decides to go ahead and meet with Lex Luthor, but of course, he brings Metallo with him. So Lex Luthor escapes, Superman and Metallo start going at it, and even though he said he wouldn't, Batman shows up and saves him. Both are very injured. Batman and Superman are able to escape through the sewers, and they make it through the Batcave. Superman is then framed by Lex Luthor for killing Metallo, and he uses the kryptonite meteor radiation to claim that it is affecting Superman's mind, calling him a danger to everyone, and he puts a $1 billion bounty on Superman's head. Batman and Superman break into Star Labs and find out what happened to Metallo to prove his innocence. They discover that whatever killed him was radioactive, and they have to leave in a hurry because security arrives. They are then attacked by a slew of characters. We see Silver Banshee, we see the Cold family, Solomon Grundy, Mongol, Lady Shiva, Nightshade, Grodd, and several others. Captain Atom and the squad show up, and the villains scatter. So now Batman and Superman have to fight Captain Atom and the squad. So Superman creates a distraction and carries Power Girl away. After a brief conversation, Power Girl joins Batman and Superman's side, and the fighting continues. Batman deduces that it was Major Force who killed Metallo, and Power Girl punches him, making him unstable, so Captain Atom absorbs all of the energy that he is putting out. Lex Luthor releases the meteors, but they fail to stop. He releases the missiles, but they fail to stop the meteor. Power Girl leads them to Lex Luthor's lab hideout, where they are attacked by Shazam and Hawkman. Lex is trying to convince everyone that he has still got everything under control, but panic and looting have already started. Amanda Waller walks in on Lex juicing up, and he tells her that he wants the meteor to hit, kill a bunch of people, and then he can start the world over in his image. Superman and Batman show up disguised as Shazam and Hawkman, demanding that Lex Luthor give them all the data that he has on the meteor. He deletes all of the data, but Amanda Waller comes through with the flash drive with all the data. So Lex puts on his suit and makes his way to stop Batman and Superman from stopping the meteor. We end up in Japan, where we meet Toyman, who has built a rocket that is going to take care of said meteor. Lex Luthor shows up, they throw hands, and Lex Luthor destroys the guidance system for the rocket, so Batman has to fly it himself. Superman defeats Lex Luthor and Batman destroys the meteor. Superman goes out to space to save Batman. Lex Luthor is arrested and the world is saved. Credits. So, Michael, what'd you think of the movie?
So it's really a mixed bag. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 5. Right.
Okay.
The cameos was one thing that I did like, because everybody was in that movie.
Oh yeah.
The whole verse, right, was in that movie. I felt like Shigo, right, who I didn't know was a DC character, was in there, and I learned that time.
Wait, what?
I'm pretty sure one of the characters was called Shigo, right?
What did Shigo do? Because I was gonna say I'm pretty sure Shigo was not in the movie.
She was just fighting Batman when everybody showed up, and he said her name, and I was like, did he say Shigo?
Because there was somebody flying and throwing green star bolts. That was Starfire.
Right. I know Starfire for sure. Right. And it was crazy seeing her as an adult. Right. Because
she looked more comic accurate in this movie than she does as we know her in Teen Titans. Because in Teen Titans, she's made a lot less overtly sexual. In the
first rendition of Teen Titans, right? Not the Funko Pop Teen Titans.
Yeah, I mean, and she's still made less sexual in that too, but
right.
But yeah, like she in the comic books, she's very of the time period.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really dug the cameos, right? One thing that I did not like was it felt very for an animated movie, it felt very low budget, right? Okay. Which is okay. It's 2010, right? And cartoons are low budget-ish, right? Even though animators get paid a lot. What I don't like that a lot of superhero movies do is so they want to show the superhero characters aging, right? So Batman definitely looked, older, right? And of course Superman doesn't really age, at the same rate, but they looked older. And so I don't like watching my superheroes get beaten up. Right.
Okay.
I get it. You gotta add some danger there. But I think I would rather them kick ass.
Take names.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's Batman, right? Like I don't or Superman. I don't want to see Superman get punched, and repeatedly beaten and then saved, and then like come through with like a cheap shot, to win. Like that's not. I want to see him like punch somebody through a planet. You know what I'm saying? Like
And I will say this Superman, because Superman usually is pretty merciful when he fights, but this Superman really didn't play around. Like whenever he came to Metallo, he immediately hit him with a car and tried to kill him right then. There were more than a couple people he like carried up into the stratosphere pretty much. It was like, you're gonna stop breathing.
You're right, he did do that.
Like, yeah, there were, like more than once he took people up there and was like,
you're right. Like, and he literally said, "You're about to pass out."
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I was like, this Superman don't play around. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you're right. And he did. And then when he threw that car on top of Metallo, that limo, right? He did blow up like the gas tank, right? Like he immediately after.
Was to finish Metallo.
You're right. But I still feel like he didn't overpower them. Like I really wanted him to. Like, I mean, like Superman.
And I guess I see where you're coming from, because like whenever Power Girl punched Major Force and like opened him up, like Superman could have done that at any time.
Absolutely.
But he didn't.
Right? He could have made a lot of people red splatters.
Yeah. Right? And that's the thing. Like Superman is not that guy usually. Like Superman and Batman both. Like they subdue, but they don't kill people, generally speaking. And that's what I mean when I say like this Superman didn't play around, because again, like Metallo, he was ready to finish Metallo. Yeah. And that was surprising to me, just because that's not usually what he does.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I get where you're coming from though, because whenever you have a favorite character or whenever you really like somebody, it's hard to see them like lose.
Right.
And for some people, it makes the situation better. For some people, it makes it harder to watch.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the fact that at one point they were like both injured, like after fighting Metallo, matter of fact, like they were both just hurt and struggling. I was
and they're like trouncing through the sewer, right? And they're injured, and you know, they could barely get into the Batcave, right? And Alfred posed an actual threat to them, right?
Yeah, like Alfred was about to blast them both.
I was like, y'all can't do nothing against Alfred right now. He was like, y'all at his mercy.
Yeah. And the thing is, I thought that was, because one thing that I always am not sure how I feel about is like whether or not something is realistic, because I will catch myself saying that's not realistic, but also in a world of people that can fly.
Right. Where's the bottom level of realism?
Yeah, like I'm perfectly fine with Superman flying and shooting laser beams, but like he puts on glasses and nobody recognizes him, and that's a problem for me. So like I don't know where my lines are, but anyway,
absolutely.
I felt like that was really realistic in that he dealt with a lot of essentially kryptonite poisoning, and then Batman is a man, and Batman kind of got a little fucked up during that fight. So
the whole time that man was getting fucked up the whole time.
Yeah, like so them both being hurt made sense to me, and them both having to struggle through the sewers. I was like, see, this is realistic. Is realistic what I want here? Is the question, and I was perfectly fine with it, because I think I'd rather be like, you know what? That's really realistic in this world of superhero nonsense.
I wanted carnage. I think I wanted like a Dragon Ball Z fight where like half the world is destroyed. The city is like going crazy.
There's a movie. There's a movie that you're gonna get that. That's the thing about DC animation. There's so much and it's so good. And I know exactly what movie you're gonna like if that's what you need.
Okay. That's what I want to see. I want to see people I want to see them at their limits. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see like Superman pulling out all the stops, right? Like you know when they have the big battle royale in the courtyard and like all the bad guys, all the villains show up and they're going through that, right? I really thought that I was really unimpressed by Superman doing the really fast tornado. Right. And that is what kind of calms the situation down. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just like,
I mean, you know, it's early. Because this movie is before they started getting this is, I think, the starting point of them getting like really good. We're not quite there yet, but
True.
like this
I
is
gotta remember that it was 2010.
yeah, like, but yeah, this is when it starts to lean toward like, okay, we're gonna see some more people, we're gonna be able to do a little bit more in these movies and have, you know, a lot more action, some more stakes, better fight scenes. You know, we're starting to get into
Yeah.
some of that. So these movies, like, we're still early, but they get better. And I don't necessarily want to say that the quality increases, but the quality increases.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is bad quality, because I thought that well, matter of fact, let's get into that. So what were your thoughts on the art style?
I I would say classic, right? But
Yep.
but it's weird because back then, like cartoons or animation that cater to adults is weird. It's a weird line, right? So you have these overly muscular dudes. I mean, talking about pecs, insane, crazy pecs, you know, shoulders, freakish, it's just out there, right? And then you have Power Girl, right? Who, you know, who's flying
Yeah.
around, looking, you know, looking like, you know,
Titties all over the place.
Mrs. Universe, right? With,
Yep.
you know, 2 watermelons, right? So it's
And that's how she's always been drawn. Like, that
Yeah.
is what she has always looked like. And so, yeah, like, that's, again, I think that this was classic in that they
Yeah.
did a pretty good job of emulating a comic book style.
Mhm.
Like, this
Yep.
looked like a comic book movie to me.
Yeah.
I feel like the people were drawn very comic book like and relatively comic book accurate.
Yeah.
And it was, I guess it was a little more, it kind, because they used the same voice cast, generally speaking, as like the Justice League
Yeah.
animated show. And like that's the voice cast I recognize. That's the voice cast that I
Yeah.
align with.
Yeah,
And I
like Lex
immediately know,
Luthor's the
yeah,
same
like,
character. Yeah.
yeah, like, that's my Amanda Waller. That's my Batman.
Yep.
And sometimes it takes me some getting used to for different voices, people coming in and doing those people. But like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
this movie, it was really easy for me just because I was like, yes, those are my voices. So I
Yeah.
don't need to get over that. I'm good there.
Yep. You found some comfort, right?
Yeah.
So,
And so I always enjoy hearing, you know, the voices that I recognize in my own head for these people.
oh yeah, for sure. Oh,
I do want to talk really briefly, just for the people that may not know, about some of the characters that we see, because as you said, we see a bunch of people.
oh yeah. It was
Um,
everybody's in there.
yeah, I want to do just a couple of quick mentions of a couple people. So we can go ahead and start with Power Girl. Are you familiar with Power Girl at all?
No.
Okay.
So at first, and this is like I said, this is gonna really tell on myself, but I literally thought Power Girl was like an adult version of Supergirl. Right?
You're not wrong.
I is that who she is?
So Power Girl is Supergirl from a different Earth. So she is Clark's cousin. She is Kara Danvers. She comes from Earth 2, and she goes by Karen Star. So she is technically Supergirl,
Yeah.
but from a different Earth.
Wow, I feel like I was wrong, right?
Yeah, because
Right, yeah.
because there is Earth. The Earth that we're on has its own Supergirl also.
Mhm.
So like, those two can interact with each other, but they are two different people. But technically, they are both the same person.
Right. Gotcha.
So you were not wrong. It is Supergirl. It's
Okay.
just a different version of her.
I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you know, comic book nonsense. So
Oh yeah, I'm well versed with the different verses. So
yeah,
or dimensions or earths or yeah. So
we have Captain Atom, who is originally part of Charlton Comics, which was one of the companies that DC acquired in the 80s, I believe. His real name is Nathaniel Atom. He's in the Air Force. You know, he can absorb energy and then has like the pretty standard package of superhero-ness. You know,
Yeah.
he can fly, super strong, durable, etc., etc. but he's often referred to as a living nuclear reactor. So he can manipulate matter and energy down to the atomic level. And he's actually, are you familiar with Dr. Manhattan at all from Watchmen?
Yeah.
He inspired the creation of Dr. Manhattan.
Really?
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So he was chosen for an experiment. The experiment went wrong. It killed him. And then he rebuilt himself into Captain Atom, much like what happened with Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
And so that's I always thought that it was interesting that the inspiration for Dr. Manhattan ended up being acquired by the people who made Dr. Manhattan.
That's dope.
Yeah. And then Major Force is essentially the villain version of Captain Atom. He went through a similar experiment and ended up being a bad guy. So most superheroes have a villain that's the same guy, and this is that again.
Yeah. Do they really?
Yeah, like if you like Batman doesn't, but Superman has Zod, Flash has Reverse Flash,
you're right.
Green Lantern has Sinestro.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I mean, even in Marvel, like most of the people end up fighting themselves. Iron Man did, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, like that's just what it usually ends up being.
And that is so obvious, but I don't think I put that together like that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And that's why the dynamic between Superman and Lex is so interesting, because Superman has all these powers, and the two people who are Superman's biggest threats are just rich dudes. Like dudes who are rich and very smart are the two people who could take him out.
Absolutely.
And that's what I always think is interesting, because I think that at the end of the day, Superman is aware that Batman is a bigger problem than Lex if he needs to be.
Oh, for sure. Oh, I would. Yeah, no, for sure.
But anyway, we have Metallo. Metallo, there are several different versions of Metallo and, backstories and all that. The one that we see is John Corbin. He's a cyborg that's powered by a kryptonite source, and he can emit radiation, and that's his general theme. Yeah. Like most Metallos are that. So, yeah. And one person I do want to mention also is Toyman, because for some people, Toyman is a different person. If you've seen other DC stuff and you hear Toyman, you may think of like a villain who's like a weird white dude who creates toys and is villainous. And this Toyman is a different version of Toyman, but not the same person at all, but just kind of goes by the same name. So I don't know how many different Toymans there are, but the Toyman that most people have seen that's not this one is Winslow Schott. But this one is Hero, and he's essentially one of the smartest people on Earth, and he's a teenager who can build whatever he wants. And a lot of his creations are anime inspired, and that's why the rocket was pretty much a Gundam, because that's what he likes.
That makes sense.
He combined Gundams and superheroes, and that's what it is for him. So
I know that was so. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I actually loved that. And I almost thought, right. So besides the fact that he looked like a combination of a Gundam and then Superman and Batman, right? Mm-hmm. Like he almost reminded me of a Megazord.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. Like a Power Rangers. I literally thought of Power Rangers.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like, because I'm sure that you're not the only person that immediately went to that, because if you grew up with Power Rangers, then that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yep.
So
that's what it was.
I will say, so back to Superman and him fighting. We know that Superman doesn't kill people, but one of the things that what I call it enough mode. So there are some times when we see Superman and he gets to a point where he's like, all right, enough. and he just starts letting loose. Like he takes the cuffs off. You remember you're familiar with Naruto, right?
Absolutely.
You remember when Rock Lee took the weights off?
Yeah. Yes. Right. It's one of the most epic moments in all of anime, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest things I had ever seen. That's kind of what it feels like Superman does when he's in enough mode. Like he just stops showing mercy.
Absolutely.
And we see that in this movie because, Batman has to go and handle the meteor. And so Superman was like, that was my best friend.
Yeah.
Goes straight into enough mode and is ready to finish Lex. Because Superman was struggling a little bit whenever they were fighting because, he was still, showing mercy. And then, when he thought Batman was dead, he was like, all right, my best friend's dead, so let's fucking go. And he goes into enough mode. Now, this is not the best enough mode that we will see from Superman.
Right.
There's an entire movie that has like a section dedicated to it, and I can't wait to talk about it. But that's going to come later.
I can see you holding it in.
It's so great. And then another thing that I wanted to see if you noticed, do you remember when Lex was juicing up?
Yes.
Do you know what he was juicing up with?
So, of course, it looked like kryptonite something, right? Mm-hmm. Like it was green, but I don't know exactly what it was, no.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that based on how his body reacted to it, it was a combination of kryptonite and venom. And venom is what Bane uses to juice. And we did see Bane in this movie very briefly. Like Batman kind of just like cut his juice and then Bane was
that was quick.
Yeah. And that's usually whenever Bane shows up in a battle royale situation, that's usually how it goes. Like Batman cuts his juice and then that's it. But I'm pretty sure that it was a combination of kryptonite and venom. And again, that's just based on how his body reacted to it.
Yeah.
Him kissing Amanda Waller was weird.
Yeah, and what's even more hilarious about that? Because they made the inference like they were going to repopulate the earth. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Was I the only one that saw that?
No, I got that vibe too.
And I was very confused. Very, very confused. And they never revisited that.
No.
Right?
No, they did not.
And Amanda Waller didn't fight it.
He was on the juice. So what was she gonna do?
Bro, I don't know, man.
Like, I think that she made the best decision under the circumstances because she was like, let me not get, like, if I deny him while he's on this juice, it's probably not going to go well for me. Because you saw whenever she handed him the flash drive, he was like, bitch. Like,
that's exactly what he said.
Yeah. So I think she made the best decision for the moment. But I think she was also just in shock because she was kind of like, what the fuck just happened?
I know. I was actually derailed by his descent, right, into madness. I was like, he is losing his mind.
Yeah. Because he was talking about, kryptonite madness and Superman, but it's like, no, Lex, I think that's you.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely him.
Oh, that was funny to me.
It was hilarious.
And, I guess that's kind of Lex's MO is that if there's a woman around him, he just has to throw himself at her. Because in the first movie in this journey, Superman Doomsday, we see him try to throw himself at Lois. And so I guess that's just what Lex is out here doing.
These little side stories, right?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, Lex, that's whatever. Okay, if that's what you do, it's not okay. But you're a villain, so I guess you being that way shouldn't be terribly surprising.
Yeah, you're right.
But I just thought that was funny because because when it started happening, I was like, surely he's not gonna do that.
I was taken aback.
Yeah, and then
it was definitely a what the moment. like straight up. I was like, and then the animation, right? Like, and then like him going in and doing that, like, oh, I have a plan for you, right? And he did that. I was just like, what?
I was like, what?
What is the plan? What is the plan?
Right? I would love to hear this plan.
Yeah, can we please elaborate on this plan that you have from Ms. Waller, please? Right. I would just like to just know. I need to hear it. Right. I need to hear it for sure. Because I just want to know, because of course you can't be thinking. I was like, yeah, he's lost his mind. I was like, that's what that was for. That was to show us that he's lost his mind.
Because I just don't think that's something. It surprised me just coming from Lex. Like, I was like, I don't think that's what Lex would do. What he did. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And even just how they made Miss Amanda Waller look, man. Like, I was just like,
she was less ready than we were. Because I'm sure she was thinking he's getting a lot closer. I don't think this can't be where this is going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was crazy.
That I found that to be just hilarious. And again, I was surprised.
I'm sorry. One thing I was thinking about, okay, is so the villains that showed up, right? One, I wish Lobo would have showed up, but I sat there and I thought, these villains have whole, series or movies or episodes dedicated to them, like, and then how fast they handled them in that battle royale, right?
Yeah, and I think that, DC has a pretty wide catalog of characters that they could pull from, and I agree there are some of those people that should have been a lot more difficult to subdue, and I think that's why they just decided, okay, once Captain Atom and his squad arrive, the villains are just gonna scatter, because there were a lot more that were showing up. Like, Superman was like, oh yeah, we're surrounded. I can hear the footsteps.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, so everybody trying to get this billion.
Oh yeah. And I was hyped about it too, because they hyped it up like, leave now. And they were like, I wouldn't miss this for the world. I was like, okay, let's go. I was amping up, right? I was like, okay.
We're doing this. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, let's go. And I think the person that came with the most smoke was like Katana, right? Like, yeah. I think she, and out of that whole fight, she came with the most smoke, right? I was just like,
because how quickly he subdued Lady Shiva was surprising. Like Lady Shiva should not have been handled that quickly by Batman, because Lady Shiva is a fucking problem hand to hand, and Batman just kind of was like, nope, done.
Oh yeah,
and that's one of those things that I didn't like. Like, it shouldn't have been Lady Shiva that he just handled like that. It should have been somebody else. But there were a lot of people that, they kind of had to do that. Honestly, they didn't need to bring in that many like heavy hitters if they were gonna have that kind of fight. I did like that Grodd was just kind of controlling people.
Yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool too.
Yeah, I was like, see, that's what I like. I like that it opened with Grodd essentially like just using pawns and not fighting himself, even though he could.
Yeah. He lasted all of 2 seconds after they figured out who it was.
Yeah, once they found him, he was like, Superman, go ahead and handle that.
Yeah.
And then
Solomon Grundy did the most work.
Yeah, which makes sense, because he's a zombie, he can't really get hurt, he's super strong, and so Zod was like, and then Mongol, like, those were good choices to bring in as muscle.
Yeah. Oh man, just to tell myself again, I thought that Mongol was I got him mixed up with a Marvel character, and I just was so confused on why he was here as a DC character, because he looks exactly like what is it? Apocalypse?
He does kind of look like Apocalypse.
Right? And I was like, is that Apocalypse? That was the first thing that came to my mind. And then, I mean, I had to wait for them to say Mongol to realize that was Mongol.
Yeah.
But,
And Mongol has either one or a couple episodes in the Justice League animated show.
yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I recognized most of them. I know who Nightshade was because they called her by name, but at first I was like, who the fuck is that? Because I know who Shade is, but I don't think I knew who Nightshade was. And yeah, like if they hadn't called her by name, she would have been the one. I was like, I don't know who that is.
Was she the one with the dark purple misting ice shard weapon?
Yeah, like she had the dark powers, and she was throwing like the dark knives kind of.
There you go.
Yeah, that was her. Okay. And I think she was how Batman figured out who Solomon or who Grodd
the
was.
Speech pattern is what it was, right? You said I recognize that speech pattern. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I was like, that's good shit. See, I like what happened.
Yeah.
That little sequence, I like that. But then once like everybody started to come in, I was like, all right, this is starting to get ridiculous.
Dude, he clapped Bane so quick. It was just such a non-factor. Dude,
he just kind of flip, slice, done.
Why would you draw him in there? Why would you waste all those resources drawing him in there if you're going to put him in there for 3 seconds?
And that's the thing. I really don't like how Bane be getting disrespected because Bane is a fucking problem usually. That's what
I thought.
Like Bane, what I thought. He's the one who broke the bat.
Yeah.
Like Bane is an issue, but there are a lot of times we will see Bane, and that's what like Batman cuts him off from his venom, and then Bane is useless at that point.
Yeah.
And we see Bane get used in that way, I think, more than we should. And I'm not a big fan of it, but I get it because Bane is often seen as just the muscle, but Bane is incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
Like Bane deduced who Batman was and came up with a plan to do that and then fuck Batman up. And not many other villains have done that successfully.
No, not at all, man. And dude, I like the sense of danger, right? Like, so the fact that like, so Bane could do all that and got him on the ropes, right? Like, so I said I don't like my characters getting beat up, right? I like them getting beat up if they go all out, right? Yeah. Or if it's a type advantage, you know what I'm saying? Like when Batman got mixed up with Scarecrow, right? And he went all, I mean, he couldn't do anything about that because he is just a man. He's just a human, right? And so, like, when he's in a situation like that and he has to escape a situation like that, I get it. My excitement is drawn from that because, okay, that's a real life problem for him, right? But when you just got a bunch of people, doing martial arts, right, and Batman is not easily recognized as the, top person there, you're just like, come on, man. Or when he's limping away, you're just like, nah, dude.
Yeah, like, Batman, weren't you just injured?
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Like, absolutely. Like, dude, you had your arm broken. I could have sworn like a superhero like just sniped you in the head. Like, what was that? Hawk man?
Yeah. When he was
fighting, like, just bashed him in the head with, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, because Hawkman is like, for a regular human, Hawkman, you don't want those problems.
Yeah.
So, I was like, Batman, I'm pretty sure you have a few cracked ribs, but we're gonna keep going.
And it was fake too. It was fake, and they got wrecked, right? Like, that part was staged, and they literally got wrecked. And I love Shazam's dialogue when he was like, you typically don't do well against magic, right?
Yep.
And magic is all I am, right? And he just like send Superman flying. That was dope to me, right? Like, that was dope. I actually like that part. even though I wanted Superman, I wanted them to fight. Right. I don't know if they do. I saw the comic cover where it's like Superman, Black Adam, and Shazam, right?
Mhm.
And I actually thought about reading that because I wanted to see what happens,
And there is that it's not a full movie, but it's a collection of shorts, and that's one of the shorts that's in there. So you can definitely watch that. We will review that one way later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I'd recommend going ahead and watching it. It's in that same time period. I think it's 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely not bad, but definitely not the best work.
Yeah. It's what if I watched it in 2010, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't say it was the best, but I wouldn't be mad about it. Dude, who's your favorite DC character or superhero?
Generally, Batman, honestly. I mean, me and Batman, we go way back to Year of Our Lord 1992 with Batman the Animated Series, and so I've been rocking with Batman since then.
Yeah, even Batman Beyond and all that. I was there for that Saturday morning cartoons. I was
because there was one point where I wanted to. I didn't want Batman to be my favorite because he was so many other people's favorite, and I just needed to be different. And so I was like, Static Shock is my favorite because not many people are claiming Static Shock, and Martian Manhunter's my favorite because he can do all this shit. Yeah,
we had to try so hard to be nonconformist.
Yeah, and then I was like, you know what? If I like Batman and everybody else like Batman, we gonna be
that's called enlightenment. That's called being woke.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not about to punish myself because everybody agrees with me.
Absolutely. Same thing with the Naruto games. I'm not the guy that picks Naruto. That's not me, right? I got to beat everybody with Gaara or Rock Lee or somebody. I can't do Naruto because everybody picks Naruto, right? So you might judge me, but Green Lantern is my favorite.
Which Green Lantern?
I don't know.
The black one? Or not the black one?
So he was my favorite character before the black one. Okay. So
okay.
His power construct, right?
Okay.
That whole concept to me was awesome. I just like the idea of the rings and how they draw the power from the ring, or what it's based on, the imagination aspect of it, right? Like that whole thing is my favorite. And to be honest, in Marvel, my favorite character is the Marvel equivalent to Green Lantern. So
who's the Marvel equivalent to Green Lantern?
Nova.
Okay. So the equivalent as far as intergalactic police force, not necessarily the equivalent of power.
In the old days, right? Like in 70s, 80s comics, right? Nova's powers were identical to it wasn't imagination. He didn't pull out of a lantern or anything, right? It was the Nova Corps or Nova Force, whatever. But he could use the Nova Force to form constructs, right? And so it wasn't, the story was different, right? But he could create like a net, or he could create like a hammer with the Nova Force, right? And so you're right, it's not 1-to-1, right? But it was very, very similar, right? I figured that Green Lantern was Nova's inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. Like I knew that the Green Lanterns influenced the Nova Corps in that, like, as far as I saw, it was an intergalactic police force that, kind of managed and protected certain sectors of the universe at large.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess I thought that Nova's powers were more just kind of energy blast-ish than
that is what they turned into. That is exactly what they turned into. Probably because they'd be corny if they were directly of the Green Lantern, right? So
probably because most of them, they'll like take inspiration and then go kind of in a different direction. And so I guess that's what they did here. But I'm not mad at because Green Lantern, that's a really good power set. Like if I could pick one comic book item to have, it might be a lantern ring.
Yeah.
because you can literally do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. It's too much pressure to be Batman. It's too much pressure to be Superman.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I
It's
would
almost
not
too much
want to be
pressure to be
Batman.
Flash. It's too much pressure to be almost anybody in the Justice League minus Green Lantern to be, right? I mean, in Green Lantern, you just have a job, right? But like Batman, like you got to train, right? That's a lot of hardship you got to go through, right? You gotta constantly be thinking, like
Yeah, being Batman would be rough.
yeah,
Dead parents. It's not great. Like there's a lot of
absolutely.
trauma
Yeah.
that you gotta go through in order to be Batman. And
Yeah.
I know that I would not be able to adopt a no killing policy. There are some people that got to die.
Big facts.
Like if I was Batman and the Joker killed Jason,
Yeah.
we're done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
And how can you be Batman and have kid sidekicks? I don't understand. Batman's okay. You know what? Batman having children as sidekicks does not make sense. Actually,
It's a little fucked up. I think the way that Batman sees it is that he is saving these young people and giving them an outlet in a positive direction is what I am led to believe.
when literally he's supposed to be like the hero that we don't want, like he's supposed to be the dark shaded, like gray area hero, right? And he's just taking kids along with him on this journey, right? Like when you deal with people like the Joker, you shouldn't have Robin with you, right? You shouldn't
Agreed.
do that. You shouldn't have Robin or Batgirl, right?
Yeah. Because the Joker, and that's the thing, the Joker, and there's a movie that we talk about later that really made me understand how unstable the Joker is. And yeah, that's going to be a fun movie to discuss as well.
Yeah.
Back to the task at hand.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I love a good I love a good tangent. A good just veer off.
Yeah.
I have no objection. So you said that on a scale of 1 to 10, you give this movie a 5.
Yes.
Okay.
I would give it a 5. Right.
Okay.
Now, and you know what? If I would revisit it and maybe give it a 6, just because there were other forms of entertainment that I drew from it, right? Outside of it being a classic superhero movie, like the Waller kiss, right? That, like when you brought that up, that was actually hilarious to me, right? And so I would give it a point for that. And so I did find that, yeah. So I'd maybe give it a 6, but it definitely wasn't my favorite, just because I just wanted my superheroes to be a little bit more super, right? So
there will be more of that to come.
Yeah.
I will give this a solid 7. It's better than some of the movies that were released before it.
Yeah.
But it's not the perfect film. There were some issues with it. I like a little more adult content.
Yeah.
That's not to say that, movies and shows made for young people aren't good, because I know like Avatar: The Last Airbender is a masterpiece.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And it's made for kids. So I'm not trying to speak negatively about things that are marketed toward kids, but I wanted this to be marketed more toward me as an adult. But what I do like is that with a lot of these DC animated movies, I feel like they have grown up with me, because when I was a youth, they were made for me as a youth. And then as I jumped into adulthood, they started, cranking up those ratings and giving me some blood and giving me some cussing, giving me some violence. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Lex Luthor saying bitch caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie. It did catch me off guard.
Yeah.
So, and he said it's so reactionary.
He said it with his chest. Yeah. Like because
I was like
oh, all right, Lex.
He's big mad. Yeah, he's big mad.
Mr. Krabs.
Yeah. I get it. I kind of agree, right? And then that's kind of a sign of the times for sure. The like kid movies back then weren't as kiddie as kid movies now.
Correct. Because I was gonna say, like, the Return of the Joker, that was not for kids. Like, you scary.
Yeah.
And that movie was probably Y7.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, see, yeah, Return of the Joker,
Yeah.
that was dark for the time.
Yeah. So yeah. It's I don't know how kids I can't watch anything now. But Avatar, I mean, just the concepts, right, that they brought up in movies when we were kids, like moral values and morality was taught way differently, right? And each episode had some kind of moral dilemma that was presented, like everybody was a killmonger, or everybody was every villain had some kind of greater purpose, so
Yeah.
but yeah, but I think when I look at Public Enemies like that, I think that was just it. It did appeal to me more as an adult, I guess, right? Like the kiss and the cussing, right? They were more funny. There were more funny nods, right? I was like,
I agree.
Yeah. So,
well, all right. In the next episode, we will be discussing Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. And so until then, salutations.